Let him cook. Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Our head coach of our Louisville football program, Bronco Mantel.
The details themselves with the right preparation can separate you from mediocre competitors that don't do that. And so, yeah, the attention to detail, I think, drives the execution, or should I say brings the execution to life, especially in critical moments.
Good morning, Albuquerque. I was going to try to hit you with my best Robin Williams impression of Good Morning Vietnam, but I'm not going to do that. Hey, welcome to the Morning Hal, our Saturday morning pregame show. I don't know where Jacob Neff is. He's probably sleeping, and we'll give you our best bets. Want to thank all of our sponsors, Hydro Bar, Turquoise Desert Tap Room, Affordable Solar, Affordable Service, and Dulce River Bakery and Coffee for helping us along our journey of creating this this site and media platform, blah, blah, blah. All right. I'll just introduce all of, I guess, the panel today. He is the voice of Western New Mexico. Lobo fan since 1970. His name is Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Ryan. Actually, a week off from being in Silver City. Glad to be here and plan to go to the game this afternoon.
2:00 start is nice. All the way from the Bay Area. He's a two-time offensive state lineman for San Juan, Mendoza, and the St. Pius Sartans, our alma mater. Mr. Rick Thompson. Rick, how you doing?
I'm doing well, guys. I saw the football season for high school is wrapping up there in the state. I think St. Pius finished pretty good. Centennial finished undefeated last night. So happy to be with you guys here and talk about the Lobos. I think they have another opportunity today.
They most certainly do. I'm going to go to Ed Nunez. I saw Centennial, I think, beat Las Cruces last night. I guess if you could fill us in on what you know about the high school football scene.
La Cueva remained unbeaten. They shut out. They beat Santa Fe the other night, I think 55-0. Or no, I'm sorry, Albuquerque High 55-0. So I think ever since they beat Pinnacle of Arizona, they're a good team anyway. And the defending champs, they've been on a roll. Nobody's even really come close to them. Cleveland started off a little slow. They've been they've had some. They beat Volcano Vista the other night, so they're back on. In Centennial, you mentioned beating Las Cruces. Those are the top three teams in 6 in 5A and 6A, and then the Volcano Vistas are tier below those teams there. So somebody was mentioned a couple of weeks ago, when would La Cueva play Centennial for the championship? It's a little too early to count on that. Seating the selection show for ProView Networks will be tomorrow morning. I can't make it. I was asked to be on the show, but I can't do it. I've got a meeting tomorrow morning with the another board I'm on. So stay tuned for that. St. Pius, as you mentioned, Rick, they've been playing very, very well. They won the other night, and they beat Manzano 16-7. Manzano started out really well, 5-1. Then they slumped to 5-5. And Pius, as we mentioned, Isaiah Carpenter, the quarterback's a sophomore. Cale Cox-Liggins, a sophomore wide receiver. Herschel Alloway, a sophomore running back. If he may be bottled up and all of a sudden go to the house for 50 yards. They've got some playmakers. I think they'll be dangerous in the playoffs. So that's a quick look at football around the metro. My alma mater, Highland. They've got a running back. We interviewed him on Road to the Pit, Amiri Mumba, a battering ram. Has got a little bit of speed when he gets into secondary. They've been running him out of the Wildcat a lot. They've been they'll be in the playoffs. I think they could win a game or two, but after that, in that 4A class, the Roswells and the Artesias, it'll be a little bit tough for them, to navigate through those kind of teams. But so that's a quick look around. Rio Rancho started out strong and then kind of faded in the middle there as they faced. When you face Cleveland and Cleveland and La Cuevas, they have the size. And Rick, this across the line of scrimmage, man, those games are won in the trenches. And when you face those kind of teams like that, if you don't have that kind of size and power, it's very tough to compete. I thought Volcano Vista might have a little bit better chance against Cleveland, and Cleveland 38-3. So Cleveland, La Cueva right now, Centennial, and Cleveland are the top three teams in 6A. So we'll see what happens. Playoffs are coming up. And it's going to be, as we mentioned, very, very interesting this time of year as people are jockeying for seeding and playing playoff positions with the high school football playoffs just around the corner. Exciting time.
I was going to ask you, you weren't able to join us. At least for this time being, I'd like this show to focus on football. Ed, you weren't able to join us during the week. We were at the UTEP game, men's basketball. You were the one putting the bug in my ear about how well UTEP played man defense. First game is Monday night against Nichols. I just wanted your thoughts on what you saw at the UTEP game because you and I were there.
You know what? I thought it's a good first test for New Mexico. I told you, Ryan, and I told George Scott, the former Lobo. I saw him on down the way a little bit after the game. You don't want to play Sisters of the Poor and win by 50. There's nothing to gain by that. Ryan, you're going to UCLA and St. John's. You're going to see those games. And New Mexico and Rick, we've talked about this. They've got a tough schedule coming up. I thought I was laughing. I was like, gosh, these guys are physical and they're quick. And they hedge over picks. They bust the cutters. They rode Nelly up the blocks. They didn't give him any easy posts at all. Now, Applehands and Jovan, they struggled a little bit, as did Phillip. They're not fast enough. when they're playing tight man D like that, you have to be able to take the ball off the dribble. And they struggled. They struggled a little bit when they went to the bench. Coach Pitino is still finding out. They asked him yesterday, who are you going to play? Well, I'll play who's ready, he said. But you've got to look at personnel. How do they match up? I thought I like that UTEP coach. I can't remember his name. He won't be there long. UTEP is very
Joe
they're going to
Golding.
bother a lot. I'm sorry?
Joe Golding.
He won't be there long. They're going to bother a lot of people the way they play. Up tempo. I thought they gave New Mexico a very good test. And again, a lot of people were asking. I know you had Tom Moser, right? I always get his name wrong.
Tom Moser, yeah.
Moser. You had him on, and he's talking about the plus minus of the Lobos on the floor. They're finding out. They got 7 new players, man. They're just finding out. And the other thing is, Coach Bob Lamphere, who we had on, used to be an assistant with Gary Colson, mentioned they lost House, they lost Mash, they lost Toppin. Those are 3 of their leading scorers. Where's the scoring going to come from? So they've got a lot of things to figure out. But I got to say that I enjoyed watching UTEP, play the D. New Mexico rarely got a good look. Amzil missed a couple of threes. I think Applehands had a 3 from the corner. No, Secco. Birmingham Secco had a 3, and they blocked it. They close out so quick. So I thought the defensive test that UTEP provided on Monday was good for New Mexico. Was there going to be Coach Pitino said that yesterday at the press conference. UCLA is going to press, St. John's is going to press, and UTEP pressed all over the floor. Active hands in the passing lanes. They stole the ball. They defense to offense. They're not a top ranked team, but I thought it was a good first test, and I'm looking forward to seeing Monday night what New Mexico can do.
We'll have a full preview on Monday heading to Nichols. Again, I'm going to Vegas and then my motherland of New Jersey for the St. John's game, which is 2 weeks away from tomorrow. I don't know where time's going. John Romero, we're good to football. All know here at the Sportsbook Casino needing your picks. Jacob didn't realize Pit Press picks have been rolling in the dough. Yeah, they've been pretty good, and I haven't been really following my own picks. The only thing that I got wrong last week was over 62.5 in CSU UNM. I had Navy Notre Dame over 55.5. Love Indiana. They were out without Curtis Rourke, their quarterback. They rolled Washington, had that -5.5. I took Vanderbilt plus 18.5. They only lost by 7, I think. And my lock was Miami 21. They did it by, I think, 22 points. Neff, I accidentally deleted him. His block was Toledo 2.5. That's what I took. They got killed by Bowling Green. So there you go. I've had a better record on this show than my own personal picks. So kind of funny on that. But I'm going to throw Neff's picks out for today. These are his, what I like to call you bet your ass segment. Let me get rid of this overlay real quick. Sorry. There we go. All right. These are Neff's picks today. Pittsburgh SMU over 56.5. Pittsburgh is undefeated. They've had a really good year. Vanderbilt plus 7.5. Clemson minus 10. Again, Pittsburgh SMU over 56.5. Vanderbilt plus 7.5. Clemson minus 10. And again, Neff and I usually combined our minds to make picks. But when we do this, I just say, hey, send me your picks. So we don't actually meet when we do this. His lock of the week is Navy minus 11. Mine is the same. I'm all about the military academies, the service academies. I mean, except for Air Force, I usually am on them. My picks are Army minus 22. Again, I'm on the service academies, all about them. Indiana, Michigan State. I'm rolling with what I know. And that has been profitable for me. I like Michigan State, Indiana over 55.5. And I like UNM minus 7. And we'll talk about that game today. What we do know about Wyoming and how they are missing Craig Ball. But again, I like Army minus 22. I'm going to roll with the service academies until they prove me wrong. And I'm taking the over in Army Navy. It's not going to be that traditional under. I think they're going to score a lot of points. Indiana, Michigan State over 55.5, UNM minus 7. And again, both of Jacob and I's lock this week is Navy minus 11. I forgot who they even played because it's just really, they play a 2-6 Rice Owls team on the road. They lost to Notre Dame last week. I mean, I would think they are probably going to rebound after that loss in the Meadowlands. And then Army host 1-6 Air Force. I don't know if that game is in. Oh, and Bryson Daly won't play against Air Force today. Well, I feel stupid. But I still like Army minus 22. Usually I'm looking at stuff up. I didn't realize he wasn't playing. So I'd probably roll with Navy minus 11 again. I think they're out for revenge. I'm going to start here as we always do with Friday night action on the Mountain West in the Mountain West Conference. Boise State played again. They jumped out to a 21-0 lead. They beat San Diego State 56-24. Heisman Trophy candidate Ashton Jeanty had 13 carries for 37 yards in the first half. He finished with 31 for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 4.8 for the game. It wasn't a good half. Rick, you mentioned it. They kind of put 7-8 guys in the box. The Aztecs did a good job in the first half. It was more of Maddox Madsen passing and the Boise State wide receivers. I don't really think this San Diego State Aztecs team is good. UNM will play them on Friday, right when UCLA tips off. So I'm interested to see, where fans' focus will be. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know where it will be. But I wanted your thoughts on that.
Yeah, Ashton Jeanty finished with 149 on the ground, 31 receiving on 2 receptions, but it took him 31 carries, to get to that amount. And I think at halftime, he was only averaging around 3 or 3.5 yards per carry. So, I mean, they effectively stopped him, as you mentioned, but Maddox Madsen is really growing before our eyes and over the course of this season. 4 touchdowns. He's also shown the ability to run when he needs to. Very good decision making, 24 for 32 passing. So when you bring in that extra safety or that nickel back up to try to bring help for Jeanty, then you only have one safety covering up top, and you usually have to play man coverage on their good receivers. And he just really exposed that. San Diego State deep coverage is not very good. So over the course of the game, they just ran down. And I think I just remember the San Diego State running back early in the year, Marquez Cooper, who is one of the leading rushers, I believe, all time in the conference. He had 94 yards on 16 carries. But don't you guys remember him saying something early in the season that he should be getting as much attention as Jeanty or something to that effect?
I do.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that up again because I thought that was funny then and even funnier now when you get trounced and only have 94 yards and you're saying you're as good as a Heisman candidate. But anyway, Boise continues its run. They even got Malachi Nelson in to throw 2 passes at the end, so I'm sure everyone loved that. But I don't see them obviously losing a regular season game, but it'll be just exciting to see where they kind of get seated in the playoff, hopefully. What were your thoughts? I know you were watching as well.
Yeah, I love Friday night college football. And then Tom Herman at FAU and the USF coach, I forgot his name. They had a nice little quarrel after the post-game handshake. It was great. I should bring that up. My UNLV Rebels don't play this weekend, and they've kind of let me down a little bit. We'll get Joe Arrigo back on the show from Franchise Sports Media in Vegas. I always say it on this show again. I haven't played. I don't know the X's and O's. But when I do look at a box score and I see you're 24 of 32 for 307 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 goose egg interceptions by Maddox Madsen. He was kind of a they didn't know what to. I think it shocked a lot of people that they went over him over Malachi Nelson. I think he was a 5-star recruit, went to USC, transferred to Boise State. He's played much better than I think anybody can anticipate it. Obviously, when you have the help of Ashton Jeanty, and I really hate the argument when you say, "Oh, well, he's got Ashton Jeanty." Well, Ashton Jeanty is a fine running back, and he'll probably be a fine NFL running back. But I think what is so great about him is he makes everybody around him better. I know that they gave up 24 points, but I don't think. I think Boise State's defense is better than we give them credit for. UNLV only scored 21, 23 against UNLV, so they held them to a point less than San Diego State. Jacob brought that up as we were talking about that last night. I had the under in that game, and Boise State basically did it themselves with the over. But yeah, I'm really impressed with Boise State. I really am. I think they'll get UNLV. in the championship game. Obviously, Colorado State is undefeated in Mountain West play, but I it's I can't see anybody beating Boise State. It should, and I think if they get in the playoff wherever they go for that home game, I think they're going to give that team a hard time. I think I saw last night that BYU is the 4 seed. Again, it's not where your AP ranking is; it's where this committee will select you, much like the NCAA basketball tournament. So I saw them as 12 seed, and they would go to Happy Valley and play Penn State. Obviously, that will change with what's going on in Happy Valley in the next 40 minutes. Rick, your mom's a Penn State alum, right?
She sure is, man. She's jacked up for it today. She went to many games there in State College. They'll have over 100,000 people. I'm not sure if they're doing the whiteout, but historically we know Penn State can't ever beat Michigan or Ohio State. They'll go in as 3-point dogs today. I think quarterback Drew Aller is set to play. You got Big Noon kickoff and College Game Day both fighting out there already this morning. So it's going to be wild, and looking forward to it. But yeah, I'm a big Penn State fan also.
I was a pretty big James Franklin guy. I still like him up until about a week ago when he walked away with the questions about 2 of his players that allegedly committed rape, and they were kicked off the team. And I was a big Saquon guy. If you can't tell in the back, it's painful to see him playing for the Eagles, but the Giants were withering away his career. So, and then many years removed from the Jerry Sandusky jokes, over his 11th season at Penn State, and this has been flashed a lot, so it's nothing new. Franklin has a 1-13 career record against top 5 ranked teams. The only time they've beaten a top 5 team, I believe, was in 2016 against Ohio State, and they went on to win the Big Ten. And then they had that epic Rose Bowl against USC, where I think Sam Darnold, they scored a touchdown late. That's when I think of Big Ten. I don't think of Oregon at Michigan in November. I think of those Rose Bowl games, and I've said that a million times. I don't want to ping pong back and forth before we get into the UNM game today, but Paul Bonilla brought it up. Welcome, Grand Canyon to the Mountain West. Ed, I'll start with your thoughts. How do you feel about Grand Canyon joining the Mountain West? And Rick, I'll get your thoughts.
They've made the tournament, 3 of the last 4 years, and Coach Pitino, when he was at the press conference yesterday, briefly just touched on it. I think he had just found out about it. So I think it's good news. I think it's good for the conference. And, you had Gloria Narvaez on the show, and through all the things, and Coach Pitino, one of the things he said, too, with all this conference alignment nonsense, realignment nonsense, when he said that, I was like, okay, so we know what he thinks about conference realignment. But I think Gloria Narvaez has done a good job, the best job she could after losing those 4 teams, and then getting UTEP and now Grand Canyon in, and Hawaii as well it's a mixed bag, man. You lose Boise State. That's a huge loss in football. Losing San Diego State, a huge loss. In Utah State, a huge loss. Those are huge losses. So she's trying the best she can, to stem the tide. And some people are going to say it's a great move. I think Grand Canyon's a good move. I do. I think it's good. I think it's good for the conference. So I was surprised when he said it. I didn't expect that. I hadn't heard that, but I think it's good. I think it's a good move.
I would agree with that. I think what Coach Pitino said was spot on. It fits in the region. They're a school that's athletically on the rise. For me, the strange things about it is I think they're one of 3 schools now that are in FBS football, or in FBS but don't have a football team, if I'm saying that right, being Notre Dame, Grand Canyon, and who's the third, Tamari?
Wait. Say that again. The one of
D1 schools that are in FBS basketball conferences but don't have a football team.
Notre Dame has a football.
Or not
team.
Notre Dame. Sorry, now I'm blanking.
It's Gonzaga. It's Gonzaga.
Gonzaga, Grand Canyon, and who's the third?
Oh man, probably St. Mary's. No,
there you go. Anyway, you can look it up while I'm talking. And the other thing that's kind of unique about them, though, is that they're the only for-profit institution. And I believe that's what their ongoing litigation is right now. They're trying to become a non-for-profit instead of a for-profit school. So they got a few things going on. I don't think that will hold them up. They have a great fan base that we've seen. It stretches across the country because of the way their schooling is done. But also when they're at home, they have a big crowd. So I think geographically it makes sense. They've got a good team. I'm still just waiting to see if we get another school with a football program, since we've kind of struck out on stronger football schools in my eyes. But I think it's good for what we have left.
No, I agree with you there. And again, I'm sorry for the ping pong in between basketball and football. Bryce Drew's done a phenomenal job. This is a program that has been, Ed, you mentioned it, in the NCAA tournament. Their first appearance as a Division I program was in 2021. I wanted to see who they played. They lost to number 2 Iowa with Luca Garza. They beat St. Mary's last year, so Bryce Drew has done a phenomenal job, at least for the time being. I know he won't be there, when they join the Mountain West Conference, but Tyan Grant Foster, he's a Naismith Award Watch list player. I think he was an All-American last year. He was an All-American, his preseason All-American second team this year. He's a phenomenal player. He's an NBA player, so it's pretty awesome to see that. I think it's a good get when they join the conference. That first game, I will be in Phoenix. That arena is something else. Global Credit Union Arena only seats 7,000. They show up for the WAC tournament. I'm going to really piss off a lot of Lobo fans here. As far as what they do in the arena for the game, there's bar none. I know the pit gets loud, but like I don't know. They have a routine. They do it. They get loud. I love it. It's one of the best parts of college basketball, which starts on Monday. We'll preview the Nichols game on Monday on the Pit Press Live. Again, apologize for ping-ponging. Wanted to start off with today's slate for Mountain West Conference teams. Obviously, our Air Force, who's 1-6, is at undefeated number 1, 20-ranked Army. I still like that bet. I don't know how they're going to do it. Their defense is not good. Wyoming, obviously at UNM today, 2:00 on True TV Max. Hawaii's at Fresno at 5:00. Colorado State and Nevada. That's a pretty good Mountain West Conference game. Colorado State favored by 2.5. Fresno State's favored by 12.5. Colorado State at Nevada is on CBS Sports Network. 45.5 is the over. I would take that, probably, looking at that. Reading a message by Eric. He's not joining. All right. 1-7 Wyoming rolls into town today. One of the best coaches I had ever interviewed last year at Mountain West Conference Media was Craig Ball. He stepped down. Jay Savell has become the head coach of Wyoming. And Rick, I want to appreciate the notes. The gates at UNM open at 10:30.
I think that's just like the parking lot tailgating gates.
I don't even think, because they were tailgating like last week at like 7 a.m.
That's just what I read on the internet.
Yeah, friend. No, hey, everything we read on the internet is true. I'm steering clear from politics on the show. UNM is a 6.5-point favorite. I saw 7, over under 60.5, and for good cause. Wyoming lost last week to Utah State on a 40-yard field goal as time expired. They got shellacked by Arizona State. That was one of our favorite bets week 1. Obviously, Kevin Dillingham, Jay Dillingham has done a very, very good job at Arizona State. Coach Jay Savell was penalized for what Rick and I like, unsportsmanlike conduct, arguing a pass interference penalty in the fourth quarter of their loss to Utah State. The Mountain West Conference issued him a public reprimand on Sunday for his criticism of officials. He was complaining about that. Again, he's 1-7, his first year head coach. Wyoming scores 18.4 points a game. UNM coming off their best defensive performance, holding Colorado State to 17 points last week. They pass for over 175 yards a game, 128 yards rushing, 303 total yards per game, 6 passing TDs, and 9 interceptions total on the year. Sorry about that. Caden Anderson will be the starter today against UNM. First start as a redshirt freshman on the season. He's 28 of 47. He's passed for 337 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Many Wyoming's fans' eyes, He should have been the starter earlier in the season. They went with Vobada, not to be confused with Bovada. He has 125 passing yards and 216 rushing yards on the year. This has got to be the most winnable game on the schedule this season. Rick, what have you learned about the Wyoming Cowboys, and what do you think for today's game, at least a defensive offensive matchup for UNM?
I think if you're a Wyoming Cowboy fan coming into the season, you would probably expect these records of these two teams to be reversed, and they probably would have thought Wyoming would have a better record than the Lobos. But their season definitely has not gone well. Leading rusher Sam Scott has 424 yards so far, 3 TDs. Last week, against a Utah State defense that is one of the worst, he had 115 yards. So, look for Wyoming to try to be effective running the ball. They have a new quarterback that's making his first start. Effective run game is always quarterback's best friend, especially as a young man. If he's going to be that being Anderson, trying to run play action and things like that. So I look for them to run the ball early and often. We know New Mexico run defense isn't too stout, even though they stood up to the task last week, only giving up 10 points on defense. Wyoming receivers, their leading receiver is tight end John Michael Gillenborg, 19 receptions for over 300 yards. So a big man across the middle, has 1 TD. I think this game's going to be a lot similar to Wyoming and Utah State last week. If we saw, New Mexico barely beat Utah State, and then Utah State barely beat Wyoming. So I would expect another close game here. The Lobos are really going to be hurting because of those injuries. I'll let you guys kind of hit on that. But if the Lobos can't get on track offensively, much like we saw last week, it's going to be a dogfight in my eyes, because Wyoming's not just going to roll over. They kept in that game last week and probably should have won. So it's going to be a question if this Lobos defense can build off that performance. Are they going to have some confidence? Are they going to have some more bodies back? Are they going to be able to hold like they did on, they had a bunch of third down stops last week. That was very impressive to me, and got the other offense off the field. So I don't know much about Wyoming. Like Mendenhall always says, I think it comes down to more about the Lobos. They're a better team. It's just about, are they going to execute today and get over this hump of just committing penalties in the inopportune times. But do you guys know anything more about Wyoming? That's about the extent of my knowledge.
I'll get Ed's thoughts on last week's game, and I know we're backtracking, and get his thoughts on last week's game and what he expects today. The one thing I wanted to point out was 2 years ago, Craig Bull. I mean, you've had Josh Allen, and you learn something new every day with him, as much as I know. Ed, I didn't realize Jay Novacek went to Wyoming. 3, 5, that is 8-1, 8-2, 8-3, 8-4, 8-5, 8-6, I think. In 2022, that can't be right. Winning record, they got and lost to in the Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl to Ohio. Last year, a great record. They beat Texas Tech at home on that CBS game on Saturday night. Beat Portland State. They were trailing Texas 10 or winning at Texas 10-0 at halftime last year. They ended up losing 31-10. Beat Appalachian State, beat New Mexico. UNM played pretty well. They beat Fresno State at home. They lost to Air Force Boise State. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They went 9-4 last year, and they won the Barstool Arizona Bowl over Toledo. And Craig Bull's last season. Jay Savell, I think, is a Craig Bull disciple. So to see where they're at 1-7, I mean, again, got destroyed by Arizona State. It got destroyed by Arizona State. Lost to Idaho, which is one of the better FCS programs. BYU's been good. They lost to North Texas 44-17. Their last 3 games have been decided by a combined 15 points. They lost by 10 to San Jose State, 3 to San Diego State, and then obviously losing at a field goal to Utah State. Ed, I just wanted your thoughts on Colorado State and where UNM sits now and how the injuries have affected them.
Well, I don't. I think with Wyoming, you mentioned Rick about their quarterback situation, and Ryan, you ran down some of the games they played. They've had uneven play because their quarterback situation, unlike UNM, has not been solid, and they've got a freshman starting today, in Caden Anderson. And this is a program that's been pretty solid the last couple of years. And you mentioned a winnable game, and I've got to think about lost opportunities for UNM last week at Colorado State. Their defense played pretty darn well, a winnable game, and they had opportunities, and they just didn't get it done. So I think, with Wyoming coming in at 1-7, it's New Mexico is never hardly ever favored. They're favored by, you said 6.5 or 7 today.
It's jumped,
It's definitely a winnable game. But I read the paper in Sean Ryder about one thing, about the injuries. You don't know. You have no idea because he says this in the paper. Luke Wysong was at practice Tuesday in a turquoise jersey, walking around with a limp. That's on Tuesday. Now, Rick, you sprained your ankle. Ryan, you probably have too. I tried to play with torn ligaments one time when I was at Highland, and stupid. It was dumb. It was really dumb. I got treatment for a week, and I played, and I think I still scored in double figures. But afterward, my ankle was throbbing. It was dumb. There's a big difference between being injured or hurt. If you're hurt, I always say, let's get it. Let's go. If you're injured, sit down. So we don't know what the extent of Wysong's injury is, and we know New Mexico really relies on him, and they need him. He's one of the best receivers in the Mountain West. But we've also seen Ryan Davis has come to the forefront. Nick Trujillo, Caleb Medford is back in the lineup today. So that will help it. Luke Wysong is also a very good punt returner in the special teams. Rick, you always mention special teams. He's a very good punt returner. So if he's not out there, they will feel that loss. They've moved the ball, and they had 437 yards or 450 yards of total offense last week, and only 6 points to show for it. So I think in a way, and I think one of them, the running back Jacobs, is I think he's going to be back. But again, you don't know. He doesn't say anything. That's the way he chooses to play it. And you can only read between the lines when you read that so-and-so's in a turquoise jersey. So you're like, okay, they may or may not be out. So it's a game time decision. He's pretty clear about that. The other good thing was, I don't know if you guys saw, safety Tavion Combs returned to practice, and we had almost forgot about him. We asked Ned James about it a couple weeks ago, and he wasn't sure. So he's back at practice. Does that mean that he may, if you're at practice, is he going to play? So I think it's a New Mexico feel today for sure, and a game that, look, they've got a couple of games left, and they could still be bowl eligible. They have to win today. Bottom line, they have to get this game if they want to possibly get to a bowl. The odds are probably still against them. They've got to go on the road again to play San Diego State. San Diego State is definitely beatable, but they've got to take care of things first. And Wyoming's on their schedule today. They've got to take care of business today.
What I did want to mention, and it was in Sean Ryder's article in the Journal this morning, and then in the Too Deep from UNM Game Notes, running back is the starters are Eli Sanders or Javen Jacobs or Nakari Rogers or Soljay Maheva-Peters. Luke Wysong is listed as a starting wide receiver. Michael Buckley, Javen Jacobs, or Ryan Davis. Nick Trujillo is starting. Caleb Medford is listed as playing.
I just wanted to mention, I don't see Tavion Combs on the Too Deep, but no. Ed makes a good point. You never know. If he's suited up, he might play.
Well, it's kind of like, Bronco's been doing this a long time. It's kind of like the Bill Belichick thing. Wasn't Tom Brady always on the injured list? It was like just to mess with the other teams. So I don't know. I think this is a very winnable game for them to be 6.5, almost touchdown favorites at home. Again, I feel like they can do it. That's one of my bets for today. I do want to go to the comments. ESPN and Fox, both during their morning show at the same place, has to be the first time ever. No, they've been at the same place multiple times this year. And Travis Hunter on Game Day in Happy Village. Travis Hunter at a different school doing a shoe. Weird. Their show is. Why is it weird to you? He's.
You say Travis Hunter is at College Game Day, right? And College Game Day is in
Happy Valley. Yeah.
Well, I find that I would agree. That's kind of weird to be going to another college game when you're a Heisman candidate yourself.
Well, no, I mean, I look at it as good publicity. They don't have
Yeah,
a
no, I agree with you too. It
Yeah.
is weird, but I understand why he's doing it. It's so he can get on TV.
I mean, yeah, he's there to be on TV. They're off. Paul Bonilla, Tavion Combs should just redshirt at this point if he can. I don't know if he has redshirted.
I'll try to look it up here.
I'm looking it up right now, but freshman year, sophomore year, junior season, redshirt junior year last year. So there you go. Can't utilize that again. I hope he would play. That would add a lot to it. And one of the things I forgot to look up was if Montana State counts as a game. I'm sure it does. So again, we've kind of talked about how that can come back and bite them in the butt. We normally have Ben Weissong on. He's been busy. He's finishing up school. I don't know if he's getting his master's degree or a cert, but he's usually like willing to jump on at the drop of a dime. So for him not to get back to me, I know he's busy and I don't want to bother him. I sent him a link to join us anyway. I don't want to reveal, what he knows about Luke because just for don't want to get anybody in trouble. I don't know. I would imagine Luke's a good player. He's a tough player, but he adds such a dynamic element even in special teams. And Ned James talks about it all the time. Ed, what did he say? I changed his wording, but offensive puts seats in the stand, puts butts in the stands. Defense wins games, and special teams wins championships. So
I think one thing to think about too, for me, if he's able to go out there, even if he's not 100%, let's say he's 80 or 90, they might put him out there just to be a decoy. I mean, he's their main man. If he's out there and they just double cover him a few plays or something, and he's out there half the snaps and what that opens up from everyone else, I think it depends on how hurt or injured he is. Like Ed said, if he can actually play, I think he should go out there and would make a difference. But if he's on the borderline, I think it's worth sitting out. We don't want to risk anything long term. He's the clear leader. When he's out, the whole team kind of looks different. And we can't ignore that fact. So I think, hopefully he's out there. He's a tough guy, but along with him, I think we need the running backs back. Last week, we kind of saw without Rodgers and Jacobs, the hammer and nail, as I call them, it kind of looked different. And we saw Devin Dampier run the ball 14 times. And I'm telling you right now, if they call quarterback keeper on 3rd and long or 3rd and 7 multiple times today, I'm going to kick my TV off the stand because how many times last week did they run quarterback keep on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8? It's so predictable. You have to change it up at some point. And Jason Beck has done a fantastic job, and I'm not calling him out, but Dampier cannot be Superman on every 3rd down, and he's going to get beat up if you run him that much. He's not big enough to take that amount of hits. And you got to keep him upright as much as you can. And for me, it's about the run game today. And if they can establish that, especially if Weissong is out.
I think that's a point to your hammer and nail. When you have the hammer and nail, then Dampier can, can be more selective when he pulls and runs. Then he can be a lot more selective. When you don't have the hammer and nail, he's going to run a little bit more. And the other thing, to your point, when you're carrying it 14 times, you're subjecting himself to more hits. Coach Mendenhall has said we don't want to do that. So hopefully today those guys are back because the running game is much better when they're in the lineup. So, we'll see. But they do need them in there. Dampier's a great runner. We mentioned probably the best, if not the best quarterback in the conference, certainly one of them. He's had a great season, and left hanging in the shadows there. And the elephant in the room is how much. Everyone's always, anytime I talk to anybody about him, how much is it going to take? And those are legitimate questions to keep him here. But, that's for later. I always think that in the back of my mind when I see him make a play. I'm like, oh, man, there's another 500,000. I'm kind of making something up there. But he's a playmaker. He's a playmaker. He is. But having the hammer and nail, Rick, to your point, he's a much better playmaker when those guys are in the lineup, man. Now, to your other point about Weissong, Rick, you've hurt your ankle, man. I've hurt mine. And when you don't, you're not 100%. And I was so dumb. I thought I could go out there and you don't have can't cut the same way, can't jump the same way. You can't defend, can't do a lot of things. I would doubt they put, the way Coach Mendenhall is, I would doubt they would put him in there as a decoy unless he's 100%. But it's not a bad idea. Now, the other thing is, we mentioned the receiver court. It's a good receiving room, but who makes those tough catches over the middle with guys draped on him, man?
Luke.
Who's made those tough? Those are a little bit different catches than some guys are going to alligator arm if they get hit. That guy there, man, we saw what he did against Arizona. That guy makes the tough catches and moves the sticks. Everybody else sees it and like, look at that play. It pumps everybody up, Rick. So you're right about him being the leader out there. He's a big time leader. So hopefully he's in the lineup today. We'll see. Again, Coach Mendenhall plays things you don't know. It's almost like Bill Belichick. We don't know. We're assessing it. We have no idea. He's not going to let anybody know. He's not going to tell anyone, and that's the way it is. And so we'll see. Those ankles are tricky. It depends how bad he sprained it. We've all had them. And if you're not 100%, you're trying to run and cut and do the things that an athletic wide receiver does and has the speed that he does. It's not easy, man. It's not easy. So we'll see what happens.
I looked this up because I think it was Paul or Ronnie that said, what Montana State doesn't count if they would have won? Yes, it does. FBS teams are free to schedule up to 40% of their games against FCS, but FBS teams can only use one win per season against an FCS team. So if they were sitting at 4-5 4-4 as opposed to 3-5, you beat Wyoming and you probably beat San Diego State. Wyoming beat Nevada. That long trip. I don't know. I think the Hawaii defense, the defensive coordinator there is a former Dallas Cowboy. I think that Hawaii defense is much better. Again, they did beat Nevada, so that was nice to see.
And I'm just throwing this out there for Hawaii. They play a lot differently at home on the island than they do away. And I will be there previewing Hawaii next week versus UNLV. I'm going to try to do a preview so all Lobo fans know what to expect if they're going out to Hawaii later in the month. So look for that.
Thank you for reminding me of that, Rick. That's one place I need to get to. And I guess other than Las Vegas, and I've been there quite a bit, I'd take Hawaii over Albuquerque and New Jersey any day. I say that a lot on here. Before we kind of get out of here, and this is a media type question, Ed, I'll start with you. Is Luke and it's not fair to either of them, but I know what I'm doing here. Who's more valuable to this team right now? Is it Luke or Devin?
Gulp, gasp, all those things. I say, man, that's a really good question, Ryan.
It's a tough one.
Going to say, I'm going to say it's Devin. I'm going to say it's Devin because he's handling the ball on every snap. He's the one getting the passes to Luke. I love Luke, man. He's a tough football player. It's one of my favorite football players I've seen over the years here. I really like him a lot. But I'm going to go with Devin just because he's the one. Without a quarterback to get him the ball, Luke's probably not. We've been waiting for that Lobo quarterback that we can say, hey, this is the guy. We haven't had a guy like that around since Donovan Portery. And I think Devin Dampier is a little bit better than right now. And again, a lot of work still to do. It's not his body of work isn't done with yet. But I'm going to go with Dampier. I think he's a little bit more valuable than Luke, and together they're dynamite. But I'll say Dampier.
I'm going to go Wysong. He's the emotional leader. He's the heartbeat of this team. He stuck around even when this team imploded in the offseason. He has his brother there. Everyone on the team looks up to him. We saw what happened last week when he went out. The offense kind of didn't have that same confidence, the same look. No one on the team has his speed or his dynamic ability. And I think when you remove him from the field, we saw Dampier. He's a different player when you don't have your main guy. So I think when you subtract him, you're affecting not just offense, special teams, and then just the leadership he brings. So, you can't really go wrong saying either of these guys. But for me, it's Wysong.
Yeah, it's no disrespect to either of them. I guess even though I posed the question, I don't think this team would be where they are at without either of them. As I always do, your predictions for today's game. Ed, I'll start with you.
I think New Mexico gets back on track. The last I think they're probably mad at themselves over last week with the missed opportunities. Rick, you mentioned the defense played pretty well. They wasted that defensive effort. And I think today with the freshman quarterback, starting for Wyoming, I think New Mexico gets a turnover and maybe turns it into a touchdown. New Mexico 27-14.
Rick, on to you. And you've been pretty damn good at this.
Yeah, last week was kind of a wrench thrown into it. You know, the Wysong injury kind of threw it off. I think Lobos easily would have won if he stayed healthy. But looking at this week, you know, we got a brand new quarterback at Wyoming. I look like Mendenhall, much kind of like you guys have said, Bill Belichick. And whenever a new quarterback played against Bill Belichick, that being a rookie, they usually lost. So I think having a week for Mendenhall to prepare both the offense. If they don't have Wysong, they'll be better prepared this week, right? It won't be a surprise in the first quarter that, oh, we're just missing our best player. And for Wyoming, they're going to keep their offense a little more simple with a new quarterback still getting in there. So that plays into our defense's hands. So if they can stand up and hold Wyoming, you know, to 24, 28 points, I think the Lobos can come up with enough. So I'm going to go 34-31 Lobos today.
I always remember that Belichick stat, and I was trying to look it up because I think it was I don't know, he really never lost.
And I think the same for Mike Tomlin of the Steelers. Whenever he plays a rookie quarterback, it's just an automatic win. So I'm hoping Bronco has the same DNA since he kind of carries himself like those guys.
This is a little bit older stat, but as of 2020, Belichick was 21-5 versus rookie QBs. His only losses up to 2020 were Ben Roethlisberger. I remember that game. Mark Sanchez, Colt McCoy, Russell Wilson, and Geno Smith. Wow, he lost to Geno. That's right. I think he lost to they lost to the Seahawks in 2012.
One more thing is, you know, 4 turnovers last game. They can't afford that this game. On the year, they have a negative turnover differential, that being the Lobos. So they need a few big plays. And the games they win, you know, they've had some big plays, but they can't afford, you know, another special teams miscue or the consistent penalties, you know. And we talk about how mentally tough these guys are getting, but we haven't seen much improvement in those areas of converting those critical situations. They're just not jumping off sides. And, you know, when earlier in the week, when we had, who's the ex-quarterback we had on, Ryan? Ned James.
Ned James, yeah.
Ned James. He was just saying, yeah, the kicker made 2 field goals, but he missed 1 more, you know, like today we can't afford to, you know, miss short field goals. Everything has to be tight because it's going to be a close game. So those little pieces are going to stand out today, I think.
What's your prediction?
I said, what did I say? 34-31.
34. I was reading 500,000 things. Sorry about that, Rick. I like UNM today. It might be like 40-30. I don't know with a freshman quarterback. I'm going to go back to the comments, right, Travis? The Travis Hunter thing being weird was me thinking how far college athletics has come. How do the other athletes like it? Again, Colorado didn't play this weekend. They're on a bye. Ashton Genty played last night. They could easily have said, hey, we'd like Ashton Genty on. Can you set up a Zoom cam, you know, a video camera for him? I mean, I'm sure in the past they have sent a player. I understand he's on another campus, but he is there promoting himself. This is for his Heisman stock and his draft stock. That is why he is there. Now, what, Colorado's 6-2? You know, you figure out how to win the Big 12. That's an auto bid. They're in the playoff. I don't know if they're beating BYU, but they are still very much in the thick of it in the Big 12. Then they've only lost to Nebraska's not a conference loss. They've looked well. I'm sure in the past, they've had, you know, former players on via camera, via video. But again, with Fox, with the implications of what Ohio State and Penn State are, and you have Fox and ESPN there, and they don't play, of course, they're probably going to put them on a plane and go there. I mean, I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, the older I've gotten, the loyalty, you know, and we had this whole discussion with JT Toppin. I definitely did want to go over these real quick. Again, these are Neff's numbers. Pittsburgh, SMU over 56.5. Game start here in about 5 minutes. Vanderbilt plus 7.5. Clemson minus 10. We both like Navy minus 11. And I like Army 22, even though I just heard that Bryson Daly, Heisman Trophy candidate, isn't starting Indiana, Michigan State over 55.5 and UNM -7. Okay, don't yell at me. I'm not yelling at you. I'm just saying, like, it, you know, why would he not be with the world of college athletics? Why would, the way it is right now, why would he not be there? I mean, they're on KFC commercials. Dion is doing, Caitlin Clark was in insurance commercials. I mean, that's just where we are now. Any other final thoughts on college football or NFL that you guys are looking to watch, or maybe very quickly thoughts on the men's basketball season opener on Monday night? And don't forget that the Lady Lobos play at 11 a.m. on Monday. It's a field trip game. Rick, do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, we got some fresh stuff out on our website covering basketball at thepitpress.com. Just go to our Twitter, YouTube, or thepitpress.com. Eric and Ryan put out a good article asking our 3 biggest questions for the UNM basketball team going into the season. And you can also see a link there to the full press conference from yesterday with Coach Patino. So we're going to be trying to put out some more written articles as often as we can. Ryan and Eric are doing a good job with that, but we'll have a full preview of Nicholls State. Been doing a bunch of research. They have a lot of good returners coming back, as well as some interesting transfers that we'll break down for you guys. But that's about it. I think women's and men's cross country for UNM also had big days recently, so maybe we can learn more about that. But
They swept individual titles at the Mountain West Cross Country Championships. The head coach, who I met, Joe Franklin. Joe Franklin was phenomenal. Darren Gerson was the Mountain West Conference Coach of the Year. So kudos to that. That's always a stellar program here. So kudos to them, and always top ranked nationally. Yes, Andy Katz has picked to win UNM to win the conference, and Vegas has UNM as the odds-on favorite to win the conference. I think at plus 330 or 320. Ed, do you have any final thoughts?
No, you know what? I think that's good stuff there, Rick, about promoting the written stuff that Eric was talking about, and Ryan. There's gonna be some things I want to write too. There's things I always want to write and do, but I've got so many darn things going on, I just forget. But I think that's good, and a good way to promote our website and our site. And again, it's just happy to be proud of this. I think it's taken off even more than anybody could have imagined. So just thanks to everybody that tunes in, and hopefully we get more listeners as the season, basketball season starts. I think we're doing a good thing here. I really do.
Eric wrote it. I just edited it. I appreciate him taking the time to write it. I might write a recap for today's game. That's my background. That's what I did. And I've kind of lost all will to write because I have a busy schedule. And if I'm going to put something up, I don't want it to be a big pile of, to quote Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park, that's one big pile of shit. I don't want to put that on the site.
I still remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. It's one big pile. Appreciate everybody watching. We'll be back Monday with the Pit Press Live. We'll be recapping this football game, but primarily leading you up to tip at 7 o'clock at the Pit when the UNM men's basketball team plays at 7. And then we'll recap the women's game at 11. They play Northern Arizona, who's a very good team out of the Big Sky. We have thought about that, and we have tried, and I actually texted Eric during the show about an idea for a shirt. I don't know who, I can be the first to line up for G Wade for G Wade 049 on Twitter for a Pit Press shirt and hat. And that guy that got really drunk, and I read his tweet that he told his wife to go F herself, ex-wife to go. I'll gladly just hand him stuff because they're my favorite people.
Ice baby, we're working on it. We've worked on some prototypes. I think something is in the works.
Yeah, no, we've definitely been in the work. This is our stuff. I know a couple of my buddies, to support me, said, hey, I need a trucker hat. Everybody enjoy college football. Everybody enjoy the NFL. Everybody, we'll talk to you Monday. For Eric Malton, Jacob Neff, who woke up about 20 minutes ago, who's going to join us. Rick and Ed Nunez, Rick Thompson and Ed Nunez, I appreciate you guys. Talk to you Monday. Everybody enjoy the rest of your weekend, and don't forget to fall back tonight.
That's right.
It is perfect timing right before the election. All right, everybody, have a good weekend. Enjoy all the football slate this weekend. We'll talk to you Monday. Have a good one. Bye-bye.